Forming a mental association is where you basically take information that is in your short-term memory, so information that you're trying to learn, and connect it to a memory that is already in your long-term memory, therefore anchoring it into memories that you already have secured within your brain. In The Brain That Changes Itself, they found that mental associations actually cause physical changes in the brain in a phenomenon called neuroplasticity, which is a groundbreaking thing because before people used to think that the brain was static, it doesn't change, it doesn't move, but then they found that neuroplasticity is a thing where your brain can actually physically change shape like Play-Doh, like it can mold itself depending on how well you use it, or depending on what parts of the brain you use more and what parts of the brain you use less. As you progress throughout life, it changes as you grow and it changes as you live your life. When you create these different mental associations between these new chunks of information that you really don't know very well and the chunks that you do know well, it forms these connections that changes the way you think, changes the pathways in your brain and strengthens these new ones, which allows you to remember information so much better. How can you form mental associations? Let's just get straight into it. The first thing that we'd want to talk about is mental associations for smaller bits of information that you're learning. So with this, you would follow this method called the SEE, or the C method, which was developed by a person called Horsley. The method is basically used to assign meaning to information, because you remember information that is meaningful a lot better than information that you don't remember, that isn't meaningful, that is meaningless. So with the C method, you can assign meaning. So C stands for S, which is senses, E, which is exaggerate, and the other E, the last E, which is energize. So the first one, S, senses, is basically where you take the information and you associate it with the five senses. So you create an image in your head from the information, a visual image that you can see in your head, and assign like a sound or an auditory kind of stimulation to it as well. For example, if you're trying to learn French, let's say you have the word fort, which means strong, and then fort is spelled F-O-R-T as the masculine one, or F-O-R-T-E as the feminine one, and it means strong. So in your head you can imagine like a fort, like a strong fortress, and then associate that with strong. So like it's really, really strong, it's a fort, and it sounds like fort, so it's a visual image in your head. Then you can add like an auditory aspect to it, so you can imagine like it's really strong, like people are like throwing stones at it, like French people are throwing stones at it or something, and it's like clanging off the walls, making these clangy sounds, but it's really strong so it won't fall down. Do you get what I mean? The next one is E, which is exaggerate. So you make the image as ridiculous as possible, because when it's more ridiculous and it's unusual, it's going to stick in your head more. For example, let's say last Monday, you won't remember what you had for breakfast last Monday, right? Because it was last Monday, so it was a while ago, and you have breakfast every day. So other things are going to push that breakfast information out of your head. But let's say last Monday, someone was riding a bike and they crashed their bike into a lamppost right in front of you. You're going to remember that, right? Because you don't see that every day, it's unusual. Same thing applies here. If you make it unusual, it's going to stick in your head more. So let's take that same image. So let's take that same image of the fortress and then imagine like a giant French baguette. Like I'm going with the stereotypes here, I'm sorry, but this is how you'd be able to remember it, by using these kind of memory anchors, stuff that you know and you associate with the thing that you're trying to learn. So with France, I associate baguettes. So just imagine like a giant baguette is falling down onto the fortress, but because the fortress is so strong, it can't get broken down by the giant baguette. So that's what I mean, like you exaggerate it, make it a bit more ridiculous to help stick it in your brain. The third thing is energize. Make the images move, make them animated in your head. So if you haven't done that already, we've basically already done that, you know, with the French people throwing the stones, the baguette falling on the fortress. But if you haven't done it already, make it move like the fortress. You can imagine like the French army with Napoleon trying to storm into the fortress, but because it's so strong, it's a fort. The French army can't storm it, it's strong and it's stable. So why exactly do these things work? Well, it was found basically that the brain actually processes visual information 60,000 times faster than text and written information, just words. So the brain is actually so good at storing these visual information that it helps you to anchor the information that you're learning a lot better, because it processes it faster. So not only is it better for you in terms of being able to remember it more, you're going to be able to learn it at a much faster pace as well. Additional tip that I can give you here is to make the association personal if you can, because when you have assigned emotions to the memory, it's going to be able to stick in your head more, because we remember personal things and emotional things a lot better, because emotions and memory are processed in the same part of our brain, the hippocampus. So again, with the breakfast thing, like, you won't remember what you had for breakfast last Monday because like, it's not an emotional aspect of your life. Like, you're not assigning extreme emotions to your breakfast. But let's say last Monday you got engaged, or let's say like last Monday you saw your friend that you haven't seen for ages. You're going to be able to remember those. Why? Because you have strong emotions attached to them. So when something is personal, you remember it more. So if you can make the visual association more personal, try and do that. Like, let's say you went to Disneyland, and Disneyland is in France, so you can associate Fort with Disneyland. You can imagine like there's a massive fortress in the middle of Disneyland and you're visiting there with your family. Like, make it a bit personal if you can. Once you've created the association, you need to reinforce it. So by doing that, you need to repeat it multiple times. You can repeat it out loud, like you can say it out loud, or you can write it down and do blurting. Basically, you blurt out the association. I've made a video on blurting before, so go check that out if you haven't already. But basically, blurting would be where you get a blank piece of paper and you just brain dump everything that you remember. So in this case, would be the associations. Brain dump the associations. Just write out what the association is, and then what you can do is you can also like add colors to help enhance it. So you can change words to a certain color. So using like your little felt tips or like gel pens or whatever to make it stick more. For example, I'll show you with my flashcards here. I have, for example, I made these flashcards there. So I put glyco in green. Glyco and carbohydrate are green. I color coded that as green. I don't know why, because I just associated carbohydrates with green. But yeah, and then lipid, I made it yellow. Fats and lipids and all of that, I made them yellow because like lipids, oil, butter, they all have fats in them and they're obviously yellow, so I made it yellow because that sticks in my head more. I'm able to associate that information with these colours so I can link it better in my brain. The second association technique that you would use is if you're learning a series of information or lots of information together, in which case you would make it into a story, because you know stories, you're able to remember them a lot better. And like when you're in the exam, you can just bring the words together in your head, the story together, and then that'll help you to write out the information in the exam. So in order to create a story, you would need these things called memory pegs. So memory pegs are series of information that you already have in your long-term memory. So an example of a memory peg would be body parts. Obviously, like, you know your body parts from toe towards your head. So like first it's your feet, then it's your ankles, then your knees, then your thighs, then your stomach, your chest, your neck, your head. You don't need to like sit there and think, oh, what comes after knee? Like, you know like what your body parts are, you know them in order. So that would be an example of a memory peg. So once you've chosen the memory peg, we'll just go with the body parts. Basically what you're going to do with the memory pegs is you're going to associate them one by one with the information that you're trying to learn. So let's say, like, for example, you don't know the colours of the rainbow. This is just for example's sake. I'm assuming you know the colours of the rainbow, but just for example purposes, we're going to use that. So there's obviously 7 colours in the rainbow: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo and violet. So if you're trying to learn them, then you can use this technique. But basically you will connect each of the colours of the rainbow to a part of your body going upwards, so it's in order. So for example, let's start with red, and you have your feet. So you can imagine like your feet, like you've been walking for a long day, and then like you were walking barefoot, and so your feet are like cut by like the stones and stuff, and like your feet are bleeding. I mean, that's a bit dark, but do you get what I mean? So your feet are bleeding and blood is obviously red. So you can imagine you're associating red with your feet. So your feet are bleeding because you've been walking a long time, so feet, red. Okay, now moving on to the next body part, which is your knees. And the next colour in the rainbow is orange. So to associate orange with your knees, you can imagine that your kneecaps have been replaced by oranges, as in the fruit orange. That can be a way that you can associate orange with your knees. Then moving up, we move on to our thighs, and the next colour in the rainbow is yellow. So you can imagine, yellow. You can imagine that you're eating this yellow like lentil soup, and then you spill them all over your lap, so it's gone all over your thighs, and you're wearing like this white dress or something, and now your thighs and the dress that you're wearing over your thighs is now stained yellow from the lentil soup, so that can be yellow. Next, moving on up, you move to your stomach, and the next colour in the rainbow is green. And imagine you've been eating like loads of grass like a cow, and then now your stomach is filled with grass, and grass is green. So green. The next colour in the rainbow is blue, and then you move on to your chest, and you can imagine like you're growing all this chest hair, and the chest hair is dyed blue. So you're growing blue bushes of chest hair. So that's blue, chest. Next one is indigo, and you've got your neck. So with indigo, you can imagine on your neck, like someone's like painting all these stripes of indigo on your neck. Yeah, I can't really think of a very good one for that. I'm sure you guys can come up with a better one. So yeah, you're painting these stripes of indigo on your neck. And then next, you can go to your mouth, and the next one is violet. So you know the flower is violet. You can imagine someone's just shoving all of these violets into your mouth. Or you can imagine, like, you know those violet hearts, those violet sweets. You can imagine your mouth is like stuffed full of violet sweets. Something like that. And then you have these unusual associations all the way up your body. It's going to be able to help you remember it in order. So if you go down from our feet, they're bleeding, red, and then orange is on our kneecaps, orange, and then up towards our thighs, lentil soup everywhere, yellow. Then to our stomach, we've eaten grass, green. Then to our chest, we've got these dyed blue chest hairs, so that's blue. And then onto our shoulders, and our neck, someone's painted our neck in stripes of indigo, so that's indigo. And then our mouth is stuffed full of violet sweets, so violet. And that is how you would use memory pegs to associate in an unusual way with the series of information that you have to remember it better. Make it super vivid as well, like in your mind, really hone in and associate, feed into the visual association, really picture like the lentil soup falling on your thighs, and really like imagine how hot it is, because it's like really hot, the soup, and it's like burning the skin on your thighs. Really feed into the visual association, so it's going to stick in your head more. Use all the senses, like in the sea acronym I showed you before. Use all of your senses to make the information and the association as vivid as possible. And then of course, once you make the association, reinforce it, blurt out the association, write everything how it would work, use colours to help make it more vivid in your mind. And yeah, that is how you would use the power of association in order to learn bits of information and to remember it better. And like everything new that you're learning, it is a skill that you have to practice. It's not going to come to you straight away. You're not going to be like an expert associator from the get-go. You're going to have to practice it and, you know, learn to make it better, learn to associate better. And yeah, I hope this video helped. I don't think I have anything left to say other than good luck with all your exams. You got this, and yeah, bye guys.